boy. Here we go again. Yep. It is another day. Ooh. You know, it seems that the world is still kind of turned upside down, David.
Yep.
You know why?
Why?
I'm going to ask some questions as we were talking in the green room, and you should have some numbers ready. This is a number you don't have, but there was genocide, they say, in Israel. That there were, people murdered in a war. All right. While I'm going, David, I want you to grab some numbers, about war, death, and destruction, from different wars. When one country invades another country, there's going to be death, right? David, we agree. Military death, military targets and so on, But in this war, it was a civilian target, and there were civilians that were constantly being bombed and berated, like 10,000 missiles in a given period of time landing on a sovereign nation. But no, don't respond. Mm-hmm. Now, let's talk about the I'll call them parades in the street for anti-Israel, anti-Jewish, anti-Semitism that were going on in the streets of New York and major metropolitan areas around the world, right? That Israel, death to Zionists, death, free Palestine, free Gaza. Let's talk about free Gaza. There are grotesque images of people, residents of Gaza, Palestinian, if you want to subscribe to that, with guns to the back of their head and their brains blown out in squares with onlookers, right? But I don't see free Palestine people in the streets of New York. I saw a great, I guess you'll call it Instagram, where they showed the streets, free Palestine and free Gaza. And, then they show the images of these people being shot in the back of the head. And then they show the streets of New York. Literally not a car on the street, not an individual walking down the street, not a people saying death to Hamas, death to this, death to that. No, David, no. Rules for me, not for thee. And if it's not anti-Semitic, we can't even care. Let's talk about the Christian zealots that are being murdered and massacred. How about people that are just Christian being murdered and massacred? David, how many people were murdered? What country did you pull up?
So let's just put it this way. According to what's going on in Nigeria. This year alone, over 7,000 Christians have been killed.
Killed or murdered?
No. Well, they say killed, but killed, it's all about massacres. It's all about massacres.
Okay, I'd rather use the word massacred because it's the right word.
In what they were saying, that Christians are killed in Nigeria, more Christians are killed each year in Nigeria than in the rest of the world combined. So you've got a country in the middle of Africa that no one wants to talk about. Since 2009, 19,100 Christian churches have been attacked or destroyed in Nigeria. But let's talk about this little enclave called Gaza that has nowhere near these problems. But that's okay, because what's going to be said is that Israel is causing this. That it's Israel's fault that you're having this in Gaza. To me, the question, Stuart, is really simple. You've had these artists wanting to boycott Israel.
Oh, yeah.
You have these politicians who want to see Israel drown. You have leaders around the world who ran around like chickens without a head, wanting to declare a free Palestinian state in the United Nations to a resounding applause. But when it came to actually protecting the people of Gaza, really, what are you doing? When you're standing in the streets of New York, Stuart, and you're waiting to go see an Israeli Philharmonic concert, and someone yells at one of the people there, "Free Palestine," what are you doing exactly? This is the problem. And we talked about these paid protesters running around and doing these things because that's really what many of them are paid protesters by the George Soros folks and others. What exactly are you asking for? Because if you're really talking about safety and the well-being, because right now, what have you done? Israel's denied aid. Oh, that's interesting. More trucks have gone into Gaza, but yet they're being stolen by Hamas. Irrelevant. Irrelevant.
Well, David, but let's stop for a second. The Israelis denied aid. The Egyptian border is closed to anyone entering Egypt.
Hold
So
on.
wait a
Now
minute, David, it's a little bit more complex than that. It's not that the Israelis are denying aid. The Egyptians are denying aid. The Jordanians are denying aid. But wait a minute, David. Let's talk about this right. It's not just denying of aid. It's denying people the right to get to safety. The Jordanians, the Egyptians, they're denying them. Now, let me go one step further. I'm going to twist this conversation like I always do. The Arabian nations are not Palestinians, right? If they're Arabian, they want you to know that Palestinians are not the same people, right? Why is that? Palestinians have been thrown out of every single Arabian nation in the Arab Peninsula. You can Google that, David. Why did they eradicate the Palestinians from their boundaries, their borders?
But
in Egypt and Jordan are denying them entrance, but Israel is denying aid. I'd like to ask you a question.
Yeah.
Okay. When people were fleeing from Ukraine because Russia was indiscriminately bombing and killing innocent people, hospitals, schools, apartment buildings.
Question that we haven't talked about in this rant here, because right now you're going backwards.
No, I'm going forwards. Where did people go? The free Christian people were welcomed in Poland, Romania.
We ranted about the fact that Poland, of all countries, that was hated. Like in World War II, the Ukrainians were awful to the Polish. They opened the doors. They took in. You look at countries all over the world.
The Egyptians aren't. The Jordanians aren't.
Well,
none of the Arab world wants anything to do with these people.
But you see, the conversation goes beyond why aren't the Arabs helping the Palestinians? It goes there. It goes to question what is the bee in the bonnet in the West that there's such a vitriol, a hate towards Jews in Israel. It's so deep. You have professors who are overtly posting on social media, talking in classrooms about Israel and the way it should be destroyed. Even the question of its existence, like why are we questioning why a country can exist? Do we do that with Canada? Do we do that with the United States? But these same people are saying Israel has a right to exist, but
no, David, it's beyond. It's even beyond that. The movement that these people are trying to support is a 7th century barbaric religion.
But again, actually, no. I don't agree with you.
Okay.
Because they were hold on. They're supporting Hamas for what purpose? They're not supporting Hamas to come and invade the West. They're not interested in that. What are they interested in? One thing, and one thing only. Get rid of the Jews, get rid of Israel, eradicate from the river to the sea. You got to ask yourself this question, Stuart. If you have a massacre in Nigeria of thousands and thousands of Christians, every day 35 are being murdered, that's not important. No, we're going to talk about a war that Hamas started that doesn't want to defend its people. They have tunnels underground, Stuart, that they could have brought their people into and secured them and chose not to.
Nope.
They pay for people to go and martyr themselves. They educate their own people to hate the Jews. We know what's going on, but the West has turned a blind eye, has no interest in going beyond the surface to see what's really going on, because it's all about one thing: no Jews, no news. And that's really what it comes down to.
Wow.
So when you have these Nigerians who are killing and massacring, and they're posting it. Boko Haram posts it up. It's not hidden. But the media doesn't want to talk about Africa. The media has no interest in talking about Africa. Africa is not interesting to them. Okay? It's ironic, Stuart. Nobody paid attention to this. It's very interesting. I'll tell you a funny thing, right? The Louvre got robbed this week, right? The crown jewels.
Yep.
France is shit on Israel like you can't imagine. France has told the Jews, we're not here to protect you because we've got a large Muslim and Arab population. We're here to protect them, not you. Jews have left en masse because they don't feel safe and secure. Who did the Louvre call? They called Israelis to help them to find the jewelries. All of a sudden, they need Israel. All of a sudden, they need an Israeli company. Whoa, I thought you wanted to boycott. I thought you wanted to arrest Bibi. So you see, it's interesting. When we need you, you're good. When we don't need you, go away. We want to erase you off the map. And
David, I mean, you're right on point. I like no Jews, no news. I think we got to change that as a new cliche that we're going to run with.
It's everywhere. I'm not making that up.
I know, but I feel like I want to take ownership of that. I mean,
of course you do.
Listen, we've been doing this for 5 years. I didn't even give a real introduction today. And I'm not
skip the intro. People know what we're doing.
We're going to stay right in this. This conversation is frankly, a one that we have had over and over and over again. And we keep touching the same issue. Where are all the you know why there's no demonstrators in the streets right now? Because there's no one going to pay the money for them to be in the street.
But Stuart, it's more than that. It's more than that. Okay, and let's not be stupid. Let's not be naive. In the last 4 weeks, we've all been to our synagogues and we saw security like we've never seen before. Yep. We go to community centers and we've seen it. I had a whole debate, by the way. I was interviewed on a local radio station here in Montreal, and they asked me my opinion on why do Jews feel unsafe. And I said, have you been to a Jewish event lately? Have you seen what goes on? We need layers of security to go to a synagogue, to go to a community event, so our children can go to a school. Can you show me where else you have that? And they're saying to me, what are you talking about?
Not at the Louvre, clearly.
Yeah, but so he's like, well, churches and mosques have security. I said, whoa. A security guard at the door is one thing. But when I have to see private police or private security, public security, and police at my synagogue on a Jewish holiday, that's sad. But this is not making the news because it's not relevant. It's not important to know that what these people have done have really emboldened haters to go and do crazy things. It's nuts to think that our children, our elderly, aren't safe.
Mm. So, David, listen, I live in Florida. Florida's now an open carry state.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what the rabbi asked me to do for the holiday? To please, because again, I used to conceal carry by request of the rabbi onto the property. I was asked to open carry for the holidays.
Stuart, the problem is, and this is Florida where Jews feel way safer than here. Yep. And here's the issue.
Why? You know why? Do you know why?
Why?
No, do you know why? It's a great question, David. I know you're in Canada. I know Canadians have their opinions that are different than of Americans. They don't have the same amendment. Do you know why we feel much safer here than anywhere else in the United States?
Mm-hmm.
Or because I have the right to bear arms. And you know what? Every Jew from the East Coast to the West Coast of Florida, from the South Point to the North Point of Florida, all goes to gun ranges, all has concealed weapon permits.
I don't know about everybody. Let's not exaggerate.
I would say more than 70% do.
Well, I'm going to tell. I don't know the numbers, and I'm not going to argue with the numbers. But you know what your point? Hold on. But you know what the point that you're bringing up here? Okay, Stuart. The point you're bringing up here is that we don't feel safe.
Yep.
Because when you post in the news that we are guilty, and we being Israel Jews, everybody seems to mix this all up, that we're guilty. and you see the protests on campuses, and you see what people are doing in New York City is a great example. For Zoran Mamdani to call for a global intifada, for him to, to claim on one hand, I'm the friend of the Jews, but then I'm going to go hug and kiss an imam who supported 9/11.
That's not a friend of the Jews, David. Oh my God.
I mean, look, this guy is an exact example of where we're heading, is that he's promoting hate. He's promoting hate. He's encouraging hate. And he's going to say, no, he's not. But if you look at a lot of blue states, if you look at a lot of these Democrat-led states, you got to ask yourself, why aren't they clamoring down more like Florida and Texas, who are clamoring down on this? Yeah, we can't control everybody, but I feel way safer in Florida not carrying, by the way. Okay, I'm not allowed. But if I'm walking in the streets of Miami, or if I walk in the streets of Fort Lauderdale, which everybody says, oh, they're dangerous, I feel safer there than I do in Montreal. Because in Montreal, I have been attacked. I have been vilified. Okay, I have been. People don't understand this. What has gone on by ignoring real world situations? You've turned us into pariahs. That's the sickening part, Stuart. And that is what's sad in what we're dealing with in today's world. And really, if you're telling me, I wish we could carry in Canada at this point, because you know what? If the police won't protect us, and they're not, and you see situations in England, I mean, here's the crazy thing people don't talk about, and we got to wrap this up. I walk around with this. I'm called an agitator. If I wear a Star of David in Manchester, England, I'm an agitator. Imagine that. My own Jewish symbol is agitating whom? Muslims? Arabs? That's who I'm agitating?
David.
Wow, this is what the world has done. You've ignored real things, and you've created a situation right now that's harming millions of people, and it doesn't matter.
Nope.
Stuart, let's wrap it up, my friend.
My finger has it just right. Thank you, everybody, for joining in and tuning in. David and I enjoy doing this every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, noon Eastern. We throw up all the little clips. We throw up the big clip. We're going to tell you as a podcast duo for over 5 years what we really think. Guys, stay safe.